Our next session is going to be our keynote speaker, Jason Allen from Scott County in Minnesota. In this 45-minute session, Jason will share insights on what an asset is and how Scott County manages theirs, system setups and how the use of AssetWorks software, preventative maintenance and the capital planning strategies, and tracking attributes and managing service requests. We're excited to hear Jason's perspective and real-world experience. Please join me in welcoming Jason Allen. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. Hope everybody can hear me good here. You can go ahead and click on the next screen there, Brad. A little bit about me. Once again, my name is Jason Allen out of Scott County. For those of you that might not know where Scott County is, we are located in Minnesota. The Twin Cities area, Minneapolis, St. Paul. We are one of the 7 counties that make up the metro area, and we are about 35 or so miles outside of that downtown metro area, so relatively pretty close, southern half of the state. A little bit about me. As I launched my career as a bus driver from Scott County. I shared my story at the conference this year, so really I was looking for part-time work. I own a DJ business, so I was looking for some part-time work just driving some bus, and happened to land at the county. That was 18 years ago. I advanced into a role of system specialist, took on dual role of system specialist and project managers, and then also just within the last 6 years here, moved into the role of address coordinator for Scott County. So on top of my managing softwares, I also am responsible for about 70,000 addresses that we have in Scott County and getting those into emergency management, that type of stuff. So all kinds of different things that I do here at the county. Go ahead, Brad. A little about me and the things I enjoy. I just put this together here as I really enjoy, once again, the woodworking, CNC work. I said I own a DJ business, been doing that for 35 years, slowly trying to retire from that because I found out since I've turned 52, I'd rather spend a Saturday on the boat on the lake rather than in a wedding hall for 14 hours. So trying to get out of that. Boating there, like I said, we really do enjoy our boat. We love riding our motorcycle. And then a little fun fact to me, I've been on mission trips 5 times. And then those 3 pictures there, my goats are me and my wife's just there are everything. I currently have 21 goats. You can see my picture there in the middle. I'm holding 2 of them. The picture on the left, you can see that was my wife loves to get dressed in elaborate dresses, and we go out back and take photo shoots with our goats. Not something I enjoy doing, but I do it because she loves to enjoy doing it. So that's just a little bit about me. Go ahead, Brad. How we got here? How did we get into EAM and this? So we really started to look at AssetWorks back in 2015. We needed a software to track our fleet-related assets, and so we went with FA Suite back in 2015. A few years ago, we were using a software called Cartograph to track our facilities assets, and Cartograph just was not doing the things that we wanted it to do. It just couldn't fill our things that we needed to have done. So I knew EAM was out there, and I knew it could take care of it. So I convinced staff that, hey, let's do this in EAM. We can do this. So we did that. Yep. Go ahead, Bradley. We realized that facilities assets are just like fleet assets, right? They have maintenance and repairs. You do inspections on them. Of course, they have costs that are associated to them. They have replacement cycles. They have PM services. So we knew, hey, it's just like fleet. An asset's an asset. Doesn't matter if it has 4 wheels or if it sits on a concrete base, right? It's still an asset. We took a total implementation time of roughly around 2 years to complete. Matter of fact, we are still working on some implementation, and I'll be talking about that down the road here. As far as our implementation as where we are and where we're going. Go ahead, Brad. So what is an asset? I get asked that quite a few times from people, or how we set up our assets. So once again, we quickly determined that we had 2 different types of assets. We had your typical assets that are like your air handlers, boilers, fans. all that type of stuff that are specific type of things. And then we realized that we had these assets that employees had to recognize when reporting issues or concerns. Because if I'm sitting in the conference room, for instance, I'm in one of our conference rooms right now, I have no idea what air handler is supplying the air conditioning to this room that's making it extremely cold for some reason. But I don't have a clue about that. But I need to be able to report that to something, and we'll talk about our service request thing down the road here a little bit later. But I need to report that. So we recognize that we had specific assets, and then we also had these rooms. Go ahead, Brad. So our assets, this is a really small screen. I apologize for this, but this kind of breaks up how we have our assets kind of rolling up into certain things. So you'll notice at the bottom is I have these, I have rooms and I have work cubicles. So every single work cubicle is an asset in our system. Every single room, whether that be a restroom, a conference room, an office, whatever it is an asset in our system. Those two areas, the rooms and cubicles, roll up into the general areas. So for instance, my work cubicle that I work in rolls into my facilities general area, and then that rolls into the floor and such. So work cubicles, rooms roll up into the general areas. We have hallways that are also in that area. We don't specifically call out each hallway individually, but I have like first floor of our Government Center East building, second floor of our Government Center East building and such. Those are assets. And then at the lowest level, I have those specific assets. So once again, if it's a specific air exchanger or an HVAC unit or a fire panel, we have that. Once again, that all rolls up into the floor level. We really don't ever do any assigning of a work order to a floor level. Unless it's going to capture that whole entire floor level. Maybe we're going to wax the entire floor, the tile on the Government Center East first floor. It's all tile. Maybe we're going to wax that. We might do that. But then that rolls up into a building. From there, it rolls up into a complex. If we have some buildings that sit on our complex. For instance, our Government Center complex incorporates our Justice Center, our Government Center, East and West building, and our Law Enforcement Center. So that rolls up into a complex. And then we roll it up into the Scott County Facilities asset, which is the highest asset at the top. Go ahead, Brad. Yep. So we had a naming structure that we had to come up with. We wanted to make it easy for guys to find assets and to be able to look for assets, search for assets, relatively simple. So we came up with a naming structure, and we kind of brought this over from how we had it in Cartograph. But really, we took our an example there is in the red there. We have an FSC on it, and I maybe should talk about that a little bit, is that we are a pretty unique organization up here in Minnesota, is that we actually share this with 7 other agencies. So 3 other cities and 4 other counties around us that share the same database. And because we share the same database, we're all using AssetWorks, one database of AssetWorks, is we had to come up with a way to make sure that we could all have like the same number, especially in the fleet world, right? In the fleet world, we might all have a vehicle 1000. Well, I can only have 1000 in the system. So we had to come up with a prefix on the front side. So FSC stands for Facilities Scott County. When Burnsville and the city of Burnsville starts putting in their facilities assets, they will be FBV for Facilities Burnsville. And that's how that works. So FSC is Facilities Scott County. ENMT stands for Elko New Market Tower. So this is one of my 911 emergency management radio towers that we manage. GEN stands for generator, and it's the 01 generator that's in that building. That building does have 2 generators, so it would be GEN 01, and then the other asset would be 02 and that 4. So that's how we kind of named our assets, with a prefix, the abbreviation of the building, the abbreviation of the said piece of asset, and then a numbering structure depending on how many assets there are in that area. Go ahead, Brad. So a little bit about system setup. This was probably the challengingest part, and once again, I want to thank staff at AssetWorks, and also I see like Tim Kuntz on here from Ramsey County. Uh, we piggyback a lot on what Ramsey County kind of did, but I really want to thank like Doug Henstrich and Joe Foster and some other people that we reached out to at AssetWorks when it comes to setting up and just giving us some advice on how they recommended it should be set up. Now you're going to find out that we went away from some of that advice sometimes, and sometimes we went right with it. But really, I got to say, AssetWorks, if you're looking at implementing any part of EAM, especially for facilities management, I can't stress the importance of those good project managers, people like Doug and stuff that can really walk you in the right direction. They're gonna lead you the right way. So, but we took a heavy look at our system setup, and we really looked at our system setup and set it up to make sure we had equipment grouped correctly, make sure we had equipment grouped together. So our system groupings, we use system groupings. We have it basically broke up into 4 system groupings. I have architectural equipment, I have mechanical equipment, I have electrical equipment, and then I have this furniture, furnishings, and equipment. So those are the 4 system groupings we use, really highest level of grouping, grouping a lot of equipment together. Then we move down into our asset categories. So we looked at master format. So there's master format and there's one other format, and I can't remember the name of it off the tip of my tongue right now, but we use master format. If you ever want to, if you're ever having trouble sleeping at night, just pull out the master format book. Matter of fact, I have it linked right there as a page you can go to and look at it and read it and start going through it. You'll probably fall asleep within 10 minutes. It's probably the most boringest thing you've ever seen out there, but it really has a good structure. It resembles, for people that are familiar with the fleet world, it resembles VRMS codes. So if I'm in the fleet world and I say 13 to a technician, he knows I'm talking about brakes. If I say 01, he knows I'm talking about the air system of the vehicle and such. Same thing in the facilities equipment world. If I say uh, 06, he knows I'm talking about wood, plastics, and composites. If I talk about 23, he knows I'm talking about HVAC equipment. So that's where master format comes. So what we did is we went to a 2-level, yes, uniformat. That's the other one. Thank you so much. Um, we went to the 2-digit for asset categories. So all of our asset categories that we have, we went to that 2-digit. So facilities, 01, general requirement, 02, concrete, and such forth. When we went down to the maintenance level and a resource class, we went to the 6-digit level of master format. So I got down into the, example here, 23-73-39. We have a gas fireplace here in our courthouse. For people to ask us why we have a gas fireplace in our courthouse, but it's one of those, it looks good things. So we have that in the maintenance class of 23-73-39 because that is a direct gas fired heating and ventilation unit. That's what that is. So that's how we did that. So 2 digits for the asset categories, down to 6 digits for the maintenance and resource classes. Go ahead, Brad. We were able to use a lot because we had fleet run up and running and doing really well. We were able to use a lot of the repair reasons and work accomplished codes that we're already using in fleet. We were able to use some of those also in facilities, so sharing those, and we did have to add some. But really just using those lists that you already have built up. This is just an example of our list that we use. We use really the repair reasons, just like they're used for, right? Why am I repairing this? And then the work accomplished code is what did I do to accomplish that work? And then we let the task really drive what we're doing. So an example would be my repair reason is maybe a customer complaint. My task would be scratch and wall, blah, blah, blah. My work accomplished code would be paint, right? I had to repaint the wall. That's how we kind of use our repair reasons and work accomplished codes. But like I said, we were able to use these, right, a lot of them right from fleet. Go ahead, Brad. We then moved into our repair groups and tasks, and now this is, I apologize once again, this is a very small screen for you to see, but this was really the help of Tim Kuntz up there in Ramsey and his team up there. We really reached out to them during we were doing this because we really dug into this pretty hard. We looked at master formatting at first. I really thought, God, let's use the master format code because that was what that code's for, right? But then when I brought I'm going to say my top two mechanics or technicians into a room and we sat down and we talked, I said, okay, you're going to do something that has to do with life safety fire extinguishers. Where is it in master coding? And they picked out 75 places that it could go into, and both their heads were spinning. I'm like, whoa, 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 this is way too complex. We can't use master formatting. So we kind of built our own repair groups and tasks. So I have my repair groups really high level, kind of based on areas that they're in. So OWC, office workstation and common areas, LSS, life safety systems. So groups really high level. And then my repair tasks are, we went out and basically looked at things we do, right? What do we do in an office workstation common areas? Well, we move people, we assemble, disassemble, we hang items, we move furniture, we set up and adjustments of rooms. So we started to create these tasks, and this is a little bit older list. We've added to this list as we go, but we just create these tasks. Most of our repair groups, or most of our repair tasks, excuse me, are done at the second level. So it's that second level in the middle there. We got some levels that go down to the third level. So for instance, if you look down there where it says electrical, you get down into ELC-LIG, which is lighting. We can get down into that interior lighting or exterior lighting. So are we working on exterior lighting or interior lighting, such for? So a technician would choose repair task of exterior lighting, and then maybe the work accomplished code is new because that tells me he put in a new bulb or a new whatever. So between the comments of the work, the work order and the work accomplished code, we can capture the data that we need to capture. So pretty simple repair groups and tasks, but it really has made it easier for the technicians to make sure stuff is being selected in the right area. Go ahead, Brad. So what are we using software for? We're using it to track facilities assets just like we were doing in fleet. I'm using it for efficiencies and asset management. So just really, what do we have? What do we own? And what replaced it? We're using it for preventative maintenance. So really, that's one thing that we really changed a lot here. I'm going to talk about that here in the next section. Here is preventative maintenance. I'm a firm believer is if you do more preventative maintenance on the front end, you spend less money doing repairs on the back end, right? That's just a proven fact. I can show you tons of statistics on that. We're using it to track all types of costs. So repair costs, total cost of assets, and parent assets. We're using it now for capital planning, replacement schedules, and I'll talk about that. We're using it to track attributes of furniture, and we're using it for service requests, and I'm going to show that too. It's different than the service requests that you just seen from Cameron talk about. That is a different service request module. We're using the out-of-the-box one. We might be going to the more advanced one for some benefits, but I'll show you how we're using our service requests. And then upcoming things that we are actually both working on these right now. We're working on now to complete parts inventory. We found out that we got probably 25 part rooms in all of our buildings, and I got rooms that have $800 motors sitting in them that have been down there for 6 years that nobody knew of because they got put down there and nobody knew where they're at. So we need to do a complete part inventory, get our parts in the system, that type of stuff, and then also we're tracking now a lot of outside labor and parts expenses on our assets too, because those are costs that should be on those assets. So that's something we've also moved forward with as well. Go ahead, Bradley. So preventative maintenance. Like I said, this is a big one, right? You can go ahead and click again, Brad. This is a big one. We looked at our preventative maintenance and realized that we had to make some changes in our preventative maintenance. Our preventative maintenance was really not, I shouldn't say it wasn't done well, it was done differently, right? You had guys that were doing different things at different times. You had guys that were, I have 30-year-old technicians that know how to do everything out of the top of their head and never had to look at a sheet. I had new guys that came in and didn't know how to do anything, right? So we took a look at our preventative maintenance schedules. Most of our individual assets fall into at least one PM schedule, but most of them have multiple things. So I have fire extinguishers that are on a monthly and an annual. I have eye wash stations that have to be done weekly, right? They have a weekly, they have a quarterly, they have a semi-annual, and they have an annual. I got electrical panels that are on a 5-year plan, right? So everything is built on type of a plan. We recently, and this has changed now a little bit from you people that sat in my presentation at the conference this year, when we originally set up our PM schedule, we kind of did just like Fleet, right? We had our PM checklist. We had our PM checklist per individual item. So if I had 14 air handlers, I had 14 PM schedules. We had all the tasks listed out, and it was pretty time consuming for a technician. They consisted of many clicks. So if they had to go in and do an air handler PM, and we had 75 tasks on there, they had to click on every one of those buttons, click them out, and then open up the next PM and do that same thing again, and open up the next thing and one. It was very time consuming, and I started to hear some complaints from the technicians. So we made a change. Go ahead, Brad. You can click, there you go, perfect. So we made this change. We decided that we're going to go to one work order. So we went in and basically built a generic asset in the system to capture the PM work orders for this. So for instance, I had a makeup air handler, a generic PM that was triggered to show that when they went in the PM checklist, you'll notice it had at the top it said makeup air unit monthly procedure. They would click on that and it would pull up the procedure list of the same things that used to be on the list that they checked off were just on a procedure list. So they would click on that yellow button, they would look at it, and now they would go in and they would perform the procedure list on makeup air handler unit 1 and then S4 and S7 and S10 and S13, how many there were. And then they would click off on that said task item on the PM. And as they clicked on the task, that basically signified that they were doing that PM procedure. Sounded great. And I will tell you this, we are in the process of changing this back to what we did. The reason that we thought this was good is that, yes, it did save a lot of clicks, right? But on the back end, I lost a lot of things that I couldn't do. Number one is none of my dollars are being tracked to any of the individual assets for PM work, right? So I need to go in and actually run another report and say, show me all the dollars on this PM and now divide it by 3 assets because there's 3 makeup air units and blah, blah, blah. And it's just it just wasn't working. I also lost the ability to do condition rating tests or other tests inside the PM because the test result for condition rating needs to go to that asset automatically. And I can't do that because it was going to a generic asset. So I was losing that. I was losing the ability to be able to fail a checklist, PX checklist item and open up a service request because of a failed item. I wasn't able to do that because once again, the PM group was on this generic asset. So I lost a lot of things on the background. The biggest thing we lost is I lost the ability to track people, right? I couldn't see, for instance here, let's say I look at the procedure and it says check for air leaks. I don't know for sure if Andrew really checked for air leaks. Did he open up that procedure or not? And the reason I say that is we just did a review of a bunch of our mechanics and I asked the mechanics, I said, I noticed that there were some things missing on an annual a checklist. So for instance, we have a PM for our clocks. Every 6 months we go in and do we rotate the batteries or change out batteries and clocks in our conference rooms and we adjust the clock for daylight savings time. We had a commissioner that came up to us, it was in a conference room, and said that the clock had stopped. Well, I found out, I asked the technician, if he went in the procedure list and see that he was supposed to change batteries and said, no, I don't look at the procedure list. I just know what I'm supposed to do. So that was a prime example that they're not checking these procedures. So changing out batteries on a procedure, not that big of a deal, right? Missing, greasing bearings on an engine or something could be, it could make that, fail within a few months. So we have to make sure the guys are at least seeing that. So not to say that we put them on the same list, they're not going to do them, but at least it's on that front page. Plus, it also gives me the ability to be able to do those things I want to do on the back end a lot more better. So we will be changing and going back to actual PM checklists on individual items. Go ahead, Brad. Capital planning. This was probably one of the things. Yep, perfect, Brad. This was one of the biggest things that we really wanted to move forward with capital planning. Is that in the facilities world, you have so many assets. I think we have about 7,500 assets in our building. Once again, from the room level all the way down to all the way up to the building. Specific assets, we have about 7,500 assets total. Specific assets, right around 3,000 specific assets. Those assets can range anywhere from a couple $100 to, we just had a chiller go out in our law enforcement center, about $75,000 to replace that. You all know in the facilities world, budgets are tight right now, and money's not being printed as fast as it used to be printed anymore and handed out. So you have to watch those, and you have to really start planning for capital planning. So we went in with the help of Doug here. We're actually opening up the capital planning module and looking at some more stuff, but just simple stuff that we did is we went in here and started using the capital area of the asset primary screen. We really went in and put in our expected useful months, right? Put those months in of how long something going to last. And we looked at it specifically for our buildings. I have our government center east building that has a air handler in it. I got the same air handler in our law enforcement center, but I'll have a 20-year replacement cycle on our government center east, and I'll have a 15-year replacement cycle on our law enforcement center, because the law enforcement center runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's constantly running. So that's going to shorten that lifetime. So those are things you got to think about. So I put in my months, I put in inflation factor. That calculates back because I have some stuff filled out in my acquisition area. I have actual in-service dates and I have original costs in there. That calculates and tells me, hey, here's your expected date that's going to be replaced. And here's the estimated cost that it's going to cost to replace that based on the inflation factor I have. So really gives me a visual standpoint of what I'm going to have. What we've done is that we've turned that into a report that we built. Go ahead, Brad, you go to the next screen. It might be a little hard to see. But this is a capital plan report that we built, and basically breaks out all my equipment, shows me year that it's expected to be replaced. So right here, I'm looking at 2027, 2028, some of 2029. Breaks it out, tells me here's my expected replacement costs, so my dollars. And then I got an area for notes in there because we're constantly moving stuff, right? Oh, we need to move this a couple years sooner. It's starting to fail, or this can be pushed out. It's in great shape. We put those notes in there so it populates on this report. So I can give this to my capital planning guy, Connor, and I can say, here's what needs to be submitted for the CIP. And then when he starts submitting stuff for CIP, because we have to have stuff submitted 5 years in advance, he'll go in there and he'll put in the CIP submitted dollars in there. So that will show on this report. We know that, oh, this has already been submitted to CIP. It's already been approved and such forth. So really good visual reference. It's really helped us out tracking those capital purchases. So capital purchases for us is anything over $10,000. And then we do the same thing for operations. So anything that is under $10,000, we also have an operations report built that shows us that in equipment that is needed to be replaced. That was a shocker when we went in and saw that we still have water softeners that were installed in 1983 that we still own, that should have been replaced in 1993. I want to know where they buy those from, because I want to buy one myself, because that's lasted 40 years. But it's a shocker when you see how much equipment you probably need to replace that you should have replaced many, many years ago. So yeah, we're making some great improvements for capital planning. Doesn't help us in actual coming up with money to buy the stuff, but at least we know what should be should be bought. Go ahead, Brad. Tracking attributes. So this is one other area that we really wanted to look at stuff. We really wanted to take a look and see what did we have what do we have in our buildings, right? We went back and forth with. I start off with chairs here because we went back and forth about 1,000,000 times. Is should we track a chair in the system? I was like, absolutely not. I'm not tracking. I'm not putting asset stickers on every chair and trying to figure out where chair 27 is today because it might be in this room and tomorrow it's in a different room because they need it in this meeting room. I wasn't going to do that, but I figured I did have to at least track a number of chairs and costs because one of your biggest assets in any of your buildings is your chairs. I guarantee you, you have millions of dollars in chairs that you don't know about. Chairs are expensive. So we need to track that. So on our assets, for instance, in our conference rooms, this is one of our conference rooms, GE 222, we're tracking things like square footage. We're tracking things like the chairs and the number of chairs. In my attributes, matter of fact, I tie a part. I have a part of a standard side chair and a standard armchair. I have those parts set up in the system. So what I can do is on a report, you'll see the report there in the bottom of the screen. At any time, I can run a report. So somebody says, hey, Jason, we're looking at replacing all the chairs in 222. What's the value on it? I can go in and run this report, and because I have that part number tied to a dollar figure in the system, it's calculating out the number of chairs in that room times that part number at the replacement value. The nice thing about doing it this way is that I have my standard arm chairs today. We're standardizing all of our type of chairs. So if today that chair is $100 and tomorrow I go out and buy it and it's $300, I just go in and change the part ID from $100 to $300. And now when I run a report, it recalculates all my rooms out. So at least I know today what is my current value of all my chairs in my building. So we do that. We also do it with our total square footage. We come up with a numerical value of our, of whatever the dollar figure is to completely restandardize a conference room. So if it's $85 a square foot, times 4,500 comes out to $1.5 million to do that room or whatever. So really a good way of tracking attributes in the system, determine what, and like I said, we track many different attributes. Brad, if you go to the next screen, we'll see some of the other stuff we're tracking. Here we're tracking different types of filters, exhaust belts, supply belts. Those are now in the system. We put those in there. I know we can look it up on parts used, but we still track it as attributes. We track it over in our offices and our work cubicles. We track of what type of ceiling type it has, what type of flooring it has, who occupies it. So that was a big one we done here recently. We've had numerous times where people feel like they can just move to wherever the heck they want to move to at the county. If it's an open office, I'm going to take that because the view of the city is much better over there with the big window. So I'm just going to move over there. We are completely getting away from that, and all employee moves now are going through facilities. So we track where somebody sits. So if we need to know where Katie sits, I can pull up a report and look at it or find it pretty easily in the system. So really a good way to track just any type of attribute, anything that you need to track in the system, build an attribute and be able to track it. Go ahead, Brad. Service requests. So this part here that I'm going to talk about, this is now completely different than, like I said, from what Cameron just talked about. That's a different module that I know was designed and they're using. Like I said, we might go to that. But right now we're having good luck with the out-of-the-box service request, basically the same one that we've been using in Fleet. It's working good for us. And I'll kind of walk through how we use it. Once again, this is working good for us. The other one that they have might work better, but like I said, and we might be moving in that direction. So I'm at no way trying to say use this one compared to the one that they want to sell you. I would never do that to AssetWorks because their products are all good. This is just working for us good right now. But our service request, what we did is we went out. As a matter of fact, I reached out to AssetWorks and I said, hey, can you shoot me another page? Because I want my facilities to page to look different than my fleet page. So they built me another, basically an instance. It's just a view that I can go in and put stuff different on the front page. So I went in, you'll notice on the right-hand side there, I built maps for all my buildings so people can find what they're looking for. What we've done in our service requests is that we've asked people to report an issue to the lowest level you can that they know. So most of that is going to be into the room they're in, right? That's what they know. Most people cannot report something, like I said, to air handler 7 because they don't know where air handler 7 is. But we can definitely get them down to that building level. So what they'll do is they'll come to this page. They will then go to the building they're in and they will click on a map that they need to look for. So go ahead, Brad, and hit the next screen. Just one click on the next one, Brad. Yep. So right here, this is what pops up. So this is Government Center East, first floor. So they pull up this map. This is our entire map of every building that we have, and then our building numbers or the room numbers that are associated with that. So they'll know I am today actually sitting in GE 139. So it's kind of right there in the middle of the map. That's the room I'm in. So they can get down to their cube level. So the cube levels are the little the cubes, and they can zoom in and get right down to it and read it. So the cube level, or the next one up there is like GE 124 there in the middle. That is an area they're in. So if they need to report something in that area, they would use that area. So that's kind of how that works. One click, Brad, should bring up the next overlay over the top of this map there. So for instance, if I'm in GE 024, this is what they see from inside the room. So this is on the door frames of all of our doors. We went in and labeled. The kid that labeled our rooms missed the dash. It was supposed to be a dash between the E and the O, but people are able to figure it out, so we haven't had to change that. Thank God, because that would have been a lot of renumbering. But we did this for two reasons. We did it for AssetWorks because we wanted to make sure that people knew what room they were, even know that the numbers on the outside of the door as well. We also did it for a new security plan that we had here at the county. We realized in some of our active shooting training and this type of stuff, and speaking of that, I don't know if you guys seen, but there was another school shooting right here about 15 miles away from us, happened at a Catholic school that a couple kids shot. So just horrid information out of Minneapolis. But anyways, we were doing some training. We realized that if I'm in a room and I need to call 911 because there's an active shooter, I might not know what room I'm in, right? So we put this new identification on type of our doors, so it's worked really well for us. But this is what they report to. So they go back to that first page they were at. They go ahead and click the service request. It pulls it up. It says, who are you? Email address, phone number, and then where are you reporting to? And on there it says, remember, all of our assets have an FSC dash. So they type in FSC dash GE 024. And then they tell us what's wrong. They tell us, oh, hey, I was in the conference room and I noticed there's a light bulb out, right? The technician will then get that service request, open it up, and go fix it. It'll be assigned to that technician. We are using notifications, service request notifications. So as soon as a service request goes into the system, it notifies the responsible employee for that area. So all of our buildings are assigned to a technician. So that technician gets that service request. So if it is something that urgently needs to be fixed, he can go fix that right away. If it's something that has to wait, it can wait and be assigned to him. But that's how they do it. So they go ahead and put in that service request. Brad, next screen. This then sends out a service request notification to the said user. So whoever put that service request in gets this. So this is one that I did. This is actually the finished side of it. So I needed to have some boxes of old speakers, TV monitors that I needed to have removed out of the boardroom. I put a service request in to do that. I got the one that came in that told me it was pending. Then I got a notification telling me that it was open, that told me that it had been scheduled to a technician and he was going to work on it. And then I got this notification that was finished, basically telling me that the work order is in the finished status, and that tells me that the service request has been completed by the technician. So it's just that that notification system that can alert somebody of the process of the steps of the statuses that's going on with the work order, so they don't have to call me and bother me and ask, hey, facilities, have you done this yet? Have you done that? Has that been repaired? um, Able to do that. So I can tell you, we use probably 15, 20 different notifications on a lot of different things, both on the fleet and facility side, that the system is just automatically doing through the max queue. That's saving us a lot of work of having to do it manually, right? I don't have to email out somebody or call them and let them know that it's been done. Let the notification system do it for you. So really uh, easy easy way of doing it, making the system work for you. Next screen, Brad. That might be, yeah, that might be it. So just, I guess just in closing here, I'm just about up here on my time, but first of all, I just want to say thank you to AssetWorks for allowing me to present today. Hopefully I was able to show you a few things and walk through a few things. I can tell you this, in the 2 years we've been now live with EAM and facilities, we're still in the building process, right? We still learn something new every day. Like I said, I'm making this change now to back to our PMs, kind of the way we had it. That's going to be a huge structure change for us again, but I think we're moving in the right direction doing that. And like I said, I agree with, I think Doug mentioned it before, is that when you are implementing stuff, matter of fact, I'm going through Carver County right now, kind of starting with them with the implementation for facilities, is you don't got to take big steps, right? Just take those little steps. If you want to start facilities and you're like, oh, how are we going to collect 7,500 assets, right? Um, maybe start with 100 assets. Maybe start with your assets that are over $50,000 and just get those in the system, and just work on those and get the PM schedules built on that. And then once you feel comfortable, move to the next, get the next set of assets in, get the next set of assets in. Sometimes I think we try to chew off a little too much at one time, and then you get overwhelmed, and then phase 2 and 3 turns into phase 15 and 16, right? Because you're so far out there. So um, I can just say, use your time wisely, make sure you're doing it correctly, and then last but not least, don't rush. I think sometimes, I know I have a manager here. Some of you know Troy Beam. Troy's a great manager and loves to sometimes rush things out, and sometimes I have to pull the reins back, and I try to pull them back pretty hard. Sometimes I'm like, let's not rush, because when you're rushing, you just sometimes get burnt down the road. Sometimes you just got to slow down and make good decisions. So that's what I got. My email address is there. That's my county email address. If you should have any questions or concerns, or you need to know how to set up notifications in the max queue because you don't have a clue what that even means, uh, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, you can reach out to AssetWorks as well. But if you want something answered, I'm also, like I said, I know Jacqueline mentioned, I'm one of the um, kind of the overseers of the community pages as far as the forum and stuff. So I know we've been having great response to people posting things in the forum, questions like that too. So yeah, I just use anybody as a resource that you can. I think the more we work together with AssetWorks, the better your organization will be. So with that, I once again, thanks to AssetWorks, thanks to Jacqueline and your team for asking me to speak. Hopefully somebody got something out of it today. Um, as my dad told me, my dad passed away about 20 years ago, but as he passed away, just before he passed away, he told me one thing, and I always remembered. He said, Jason, learn one new thing a day. That's all you need to do, and I've lived my life like that. So hopefully you learned one thing today. With that, I'll turn my time over,